Hey everyone, welcome to the second Kind Spotlight we have here, where we spotlight people and businesses doing all sorts of kind things and sharing their passions and just making an amazing impact on the world. I'm your host, Taylor Thompson. I'm the co-founder of The Kind Brands, where we aim to inspire meaningful change, true happiness in the world by guiding people and businesses to see what's possible, breaking free from their limitations, and helping them bridge the gap between where they are now and where they want to be in their lives and businesses. And today, I am here with Brendan Vermeire of Metabolic Solutions. Hey, Brendan.
Hey Taylor, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing awesome. Appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brendan, how about you start out and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. almost 26 years in the making, right? So it's been a fun one where I think what sort of launched me down my path with kind of health and fitness and functional medicine and all this stuff was really more when I was a kid. I think I realized at a young age that there's not a whole lot in life that we have control of, but we do have control over what we put in our body and how we move our body.
Yeah.
And essentially that can really separate us from our peers. I was a smaller kid. I wasn't like the most athletically gifted or, I wasn't always like most brilliant. So it was one of those, I just saw that like, hey, if I put in the work and I make the right choices. And so it more kind of started with sort of almost like an obsession with hard work and having that set me apart. But then that turned into sort of this deep fascination with like fitness. And then that turned into like overall health and eventually just diving down the rabbit hole of the most complex physiological, biological sciences and like, well, shoot, like how far can you take this? How like kind of superhuman can you make yourself based on working smart and hard? And so then, however many years later, so it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something that you're obviously passionate about personally, and you've made it into your business, which we'll get into a little bit later. But outside of kind of health and wellness, how do you personally like spending your time? I know you're probably like me and you like to work a lot, whereas a lot of my free time I work. But what?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I feel like if you're able to combine a career with something you're passionate about, I feel like that's true winning in life. And I definitely can, relate to that very much. So on the one hand, my life is all kind of wrapped up in the same stuff. It is kind of hard to draw the line between what's my like personal life versus professional life because it's all just jumbled up in the same stuff. But I will say, like, I'm a chill dude. I like to, go for nature walks and watch the sunrise, go to stargaze, hang out with friends, have deep conversations.
Yeah.
I work out a lot. I do a lot of CrossFit and yoga and bodybuilding, powerlifting, just anything moving and active. I just like to do stuff. And then, I also like to kick my feet up and watch a lot of movies too. So, I think I have a complex brain, but I like simple things in life. So,
yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit, I know the world is so diverse in their views on what health and wellness is. And, maybe there's not really one, definition of what that is. But tell us a little bit about what health and wellness, means to you. And
so I have this analogy that's kind of become my like theory of health and happiness, which is really, I describe it as, I think health is like a yin yang, which maybe that just is my hippie side or something. But, the yin yang, I think we all get sort of that symbolic nature of it. But I look at like your health as the yin yang of a combination of psychology and physiology. Now, obviously, psychology is more the study of human behavior and trying to look for similarities in behavior and kind of categorizing different things. So it's a little bit more subjective, whereas obviously physiology and biochemistry and stuff like that, it's very objective and measuring just black and white sciencey stuff as far as how does this machine operate. So I think for me, it's more of that realization that you have to combine the two if you really want to optimize your life and your health and your results, because I see people where they focus exclusively on the physiological game, and maybe they are doing like lots of lab testing and sciencey stuff, or whether it's just counting macros and calories and workout time and whatever, and it's kind of this regimented numbers game. But then they're missing out on more like the mental, spiritual, psychological side.
Yeah.
That's where I really like to kind of take the best of all of it and combine it into kind of one true holistic methodology. So, for example, I think like yoga is an amazing practice that really helps you develop that mindfulness and awareness, and even if you kind of get into more of the spiritual stuff, but just being cognizant of who you are as a soul on this planet, falling through space eternally. And it's like, what do you want out of life? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to get out of this thing that is life? But then at the same time, you have to address the physiology. You have to actually make sure the engine is running properly. And obviously that gets amazingly complex, and there's not a ton of practitioners out there that are bringing this information to the masses very readily. So I don't know, I try to combine it all, so that way you are improving your psyche, your relationship with yourself, your exercise, your food. It is a relationship, and just like any relationship, you have to nurture it and foster it and grow it and develop it. But again, if there's something internally that's preventing you, like if your neurotransmitters are off, you can be thinking all the positive thinking strategies in the world and work on your attitude and how you choose to react to the situation. But if your hormones or neurotransmitters or whatever are off, it's going to drastically change the way that you're able to feel about something, because it does have a very powerful impact. So it's got to go hand in hand. And if you're not addressing both sides of that yin yang, there are going to be holes to your game for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that so much, because it really, I resonate with the yin yang, example, just because it really is a balance. And I think that's one of the biggest things, with, health and wellness, is just finding that balance. And it's a little bit different for everybody, but it seems like it's always kind of an experiment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really awesome. Cool. So you touched on this just a little bit, but I know like some people listening, see the word holistic and they're just like, oh, like, no, I want to stay away, from whatever stigmas, that kind of stuff, or preconceived notions that they may have about that. And then there's some other people that only go that route with their health. But it's, defining what holistic is also kind of difficult. But what is like a holistic view of health and wellness, to you? Or how would you, explain it to your patients or an audience like this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think holistic has become kind of this catchphrase and this trendy term that's being thrown around a lot. Same with functional. I think functional is becoming a hot word too. Like in the fitness world, functional fitness is the hot thing these days, and within the kind of alternative medicine community, it's functional medicine. And this idea of functionality, and it's more functional and helpful and realistic and applicable than how we used to do things, where essentially segmenting instead of treating the system as a whole, as one working unit. And I'm a pretty straightforward, transparent, evidence-based, like what makes the most sense and what actually gets results, dude.
Yeah.
My parents would have loved for me to go to medical school. Reacting to disease situations with drugs and surgery just isn't my jam. So I wanted to be more on the proactive, help people reach optimal health, not, wait until what started as a little bit of a fire in the kitchen is now a raging house fire, and then you have to respond with firefighters. Like, how about we proactively, prevent that and all of that. So with holistic, the actual definition of holistic is really like addressing the fact that this whole thing is connected as one working unit. So whether we're talking about the body or a tree, it's recognizing that you can't treat the leaves separately from the branches, separately from the roots, separately from the soil that it's growing in or the light that it's getting exposed to. It's recognizing the holistic, all-encompassing nature of all the factors that affect that system. And so it's the same thing with our body, is recognizing that there is that mental, psychological component, but that physiological, and understanding that, your heart is affected by your gut health. And, I've had a lot of medical doctor clients, and, not that we always see eye to eye, but kind of this, I feel like certain communities have gotten a little stuck in this stubborn mindset of like, no, this is completely separate than this. And it's like, really, it's part of the same organism.
Sure. Yeah.
You look to the science, and there is actually measurable, objective, communication going on, and we're learning more about that every day. So, for example, there's a lot of research going into how, the bacteria in your gut can affect your mood and affect your brain cognition and neurotransmitter neurochemistry. And, I just look at it as like, okay, that's great that we have the research to validate that, but that should be common sense. It's part of the same organism. So, yeah, I don't know. I think people that are closed off to holistic should maybe take the time to be open-minded and explore it more, because more often than not, I find people tend to get the answers that they're really needing and looking for when they, approach that way. But hey, there's a necessity for all pieces of it. There is a necessity, because even though I'm like a holistic functional practitioner, I'm not at all closed off to drugs and surgery. Like, it's needed when it's needed.
Yeah.
And that's great that we have that technology, but at the same time, let's also make sure that we're doing more than just cutting into the body or giving an artificial substance to artificially modulate what the body, is naturally trying to do. So let's make sure it is a holistic approach. And so I guess my hope is in the future, it's going to be where we're all working together, not so segmented, because theoretically we're all working towards the same goal. There's just a lot of pick a side, but that's human nature. People want to pick a side, pick a camp, and defend it. And I think some people like conflict. I don't know why. Life is way more chill and fun when you go with the flow and help people. But it's just the nature of the world we live in. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. I obviously I call myself a holistic life and business coach, and really what, that means to me is, just everything's connected to everything. And, for kind of the more life coaching side of my business, when people come to me and they're like, hey, like, I'm really, miserable in my job and I want to leave it or find something different. Really what maybe the problem might be is actually, they're having some self-confidence issues or, some emotional healing that needs to go on. And so once we actually find, the cause of that, then they actually love their job. And so we didn't really need to go through the process of trying to find them a different career or anything like that. And it's just crazy that that's, how it works, but it's really amazing at the same time that we can just, find the root cause of something. And then not only are you healing one area of your life or your body, but it usually heals almost all of them or a lot of them, which is cool.
I really like that you use that word root cause, because that's obviously a huge, phrase within kind of the functional medicine community, where obviously that's the whole point of functional medicine, is getting to, like, one, understanding how the system works, whatever system we're talking about, whether we're talking about your psychology or the actual physiology and all of that. But either way, it's understanding how does the system actually work, and then what are the underlying causes or contributing factors that alter the function of the system. And so, whereas in my business, I tend to focus more on the physiology, and the biochemistry, I like what you said just now about, as a life coach, a holistic life coach, essentially you're using that same methodology, that same approach, that same holistic view, but it's getting to the emotional root cause. It's the emotional or biochemical root cause. It ultimately comes down to getting to the heart of the issue and having that awareness to make the steps needed to do something about it. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun. And I love when people take this route, and I, never judge what route people go to, and that's, completely up to them. But what's really awesome is just that we have all of these options for people. But one thing that I want to touch on here before we start talking about what it is that you actually do as a professional um, is really, if you have any, tips for people, maybe if they're, interested in kind of entering the more holistic realm of health and wellness, maybe some things to stay away from if they're looking for a professional or a solution. Because I know, like, absolutely any industry out there, there's some of the good and some of the bad, whether you're, looking for a new bank or an MD or a health coach or a functional trainer or, anything like that. There's some good and bad, but do you kind of have any tips for that?
That's a hard one because I
Yeah.
think there's so many factors and dynamics to it. And so ultimately, what it comes down to is each individual having the self awareness to know what it is that they want, what it is that they need, and then trying to figure out like who the best fit is for that need. So, for example, I did my USA weightlifting certification this weekend, which was
Oh, wow.
a lot of fun. And, I haven't done an exercise based certification course since I was like 19 because all
Yeah.
I've been doing is studying, functional medicine and
Sure.
biochemistry and stuff. But hey, that is a passion of mine. It's something I like doing. It's something I do teach clients and,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm doing fitness type coaching. And so I want to get better at it. And I tell you what, this instructor that taught our course, what a stud. She's got a local gym around here. Her name's Anna. And, I mean, what an absolute stud at Olympic weightlifting and just completely broke me down technique wise. And so it's one of those, okay, well, I'm actually probably going to go train with her a little bit for my Olympic weightlifting. Now, that's me understanding, well, one of my specific goals is I want to get better at Olympic weightlifting so I can be better at CrossFit. And I know she's the best around that I know of when it comes to Olympic weightlifting techniques. So I know that she's who I need to go see. Now, with other stuff, that's where it gets hairy. Is that's very specific, but I don't
Sure.
think other people are as specific with their goals. They're like, well, I need to lose weight. Where do I start? I want to get healthier. Where do I start? I want to get more fit. Where do I start? And
Mm-hmm.
so I do think it takes a lot of trial and error and experimentation and looking into things and trying different things before you even have the education to know where he needs to go. It's almost like
Sure.
you have to wade through a certain amount of surface level stuff before you get to the deeper and understanding. Like, oh, why would I want to go see a functional medicine practitioner versus like an acupuncturist or a chiropractor? Or on the fitness side, I don't know the difference between CrossFit, yoga, and personal training, but I want to get fit and healthy. So that's hard, but people need to do their homework, and I don't think there's any way around it. They'll probably have to kiss a few frogs.
Yeah. Yep.
So it happens.
Yep. Definitely. Awesome. So do you have anything else to speak to the audience to about, more general kind of health and wellness stuff before we move on to what it is that you do and how you help people?
Sure. One thing, because I think it all starts with that sort of awareness of self. And I know I've said that multiple times, but I think there's so much truth to that. So I guess what I'm getting at is I think you have to reflect a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
do think self-reflection is probably one of the most important things to do in life to be
Yeah.
happy and successful. And I do frankly know and think that everybody's wired differently. And I literally could go into all the sciencey stuff behind that. But, I do think some people are just more naturally able to reflect, and other people, they probably have to work on it more.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if you don't know who you are, what you're all about, and what you actually want, you know, there's no way to create a roadmap to get to where you want because you don't actually know what you want. So
Right.
that's kind of the step one. And that's where I think, having that self reflection, but also understanding yourself. And, there's all these like personality, you know, questionnaires and stuff
Yeah.
out there. And like the Myers Briggs is a really popular one. And honestly, I mean, I know some people are like, oh, that's dumb, whatever. I mean, I'm personally not into astrology. Some people are. But like the Myers Briggs, that's a pretty well respected psychological
Yeah.
exam. And for me, that was a kind of life changing tool. It, I always felt like I was different and couldn't relate to people. And then I did this exam, and I'm reading about my, personality type, and it gave me a lot of assurance that, like, oh, well, there are others like me. Otherwise, this would not exist. And okay, so this is cool, and it helps me understand what are my natural strengths, what are my natural weaknesses. So how can I play to my strengths but work on my weaknesses? And I think it's just about evolving as a person. So that's where, when people have these like superficial goals of like, I just want to lose weight, but I think one of the best exercises is called the 5 whys, right? So somebody says, I want to lose weight. Why do you want to lose weight? Well, I want to fit in my clothes better. Why do you want to fit into your clothes better? Oh, well, I would feel less self-conscious, when I fit in my clothes better. Okay, why do you want to feel, less self-conscious? Well, because I don't like feeling really bad about myself, and you keep at it until you actually get to the heart of it. Because otherwise, it's just like, if you don't get to the why, you don't get to that root why, that root cause, what are you doing? You're not going to get anywhere. So I think, honestly, even though that's not really directly related to health and wellness tips, I think that is the predecessor to everything else you're going to do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I'm all about those personality tests, but doing it in a way that, again, supports what it is that you're going for. Because I know sometimes people can just dive into those and not, really take anything away. But I've done quite a few just to kind of get to know myself better, and how I tend to interact with the world or others, or how everyone else tends to perceive me, has been very helpful, in just like how I can interact with the world and my clients and that kind of stuff. And just, in certain situations, how I tend to be. And you can really decide your path from there. There's a million different ways to get to your goal, or your desired feeling that you're getting to, but kind of getting to know yourself helps you determine which of those paths you're going to take, which is really cool.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. And I love those 5 whys. I do a similar exercise to really get down to, I focus a lot on goals in my practice too, and more often, our goals are very superficial, or like, I want to write a book someday, like I want to be an author. Okay, well, you trace that back down, but actually, what they're wanting is they're wanting some recognition from their work, that, they're desiring recognition, and we might find out that a book is not actually the way to go for that, but, in their mind, they're thinking it's, a book is the way to do it, but it's really not. And so there's, other ways to, achieve the feeling of, satisfaction in their work and recognition in their work. And so I think that's really cool that you do that. It's important.
I completely agree with what you're saying. It's so true.
And getting to the root cause, the root of what it is that they're trying to get to, which is cool. So
exactly.
Awesome. So you have started this super incredible, powerful, helpful business and brand, Metabolic Solutions. But before we kind of talk about your business specifically, let's get into, what it is that you do, in your title, which is a little bit your business, but I do want to touch on kind of your future business ideas in a little bit. But what is your title, and what is it that you help people with?
Good question. So there's kind of a lot of moving parts to that, where I started my career when I was 19 as a personal trainer and nutrition coach, and I very quickly got fascinated and kind of locked on really just understanding how the body works at the deepest level possible. I'm the type of person, I have no problem working really hard, and so, hard work only gets you so far, and you can actually, hurt yourself and run yourself into the ground by working too hard. And so it's one of those, if you're not working intelligently, it doesn't really matter how much energy you're expending to reach your goal, like you're just not going to get anywhere. So obviously you have to work smart and hard. And so I think I'm relatively obsessive by nature. I'll admit that. So I have gotten obsessed with how can I work smarter and smarter and smarter.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I'm always working hard. That's just the way I'm wired. But obviously, what's going to be able to separate you from the next person is how smart you can work. And so, my official title, I have a lot of different titles, but I'm a functional health practitioner. I'm a functional health practitioner mentor, and I'm a clinical advisor. I am also a master nutrition coach, master personal trainer. I've lost track of all my credentials. They're listed on my website. I have a lot of them, and I'm, super education nerd. Essentially, what I do is functional medicine. Now, in all transparency, since I do not have a medical license, I can't legally be throwing around the word medicine because, that's where, let's just be real, it kind of gets into just legal guidelines, but it is what it is. Essentially, it's lifestyle medicine that is based on objective data that we obtain with functional lab testing. So essentially what I do is I, look into, okay, what are the health complaints? What's going on? What symptoms are being presented? What does that tell me as far as what systems internally are probably dysfunctional and not working well?
Mm-hmm.
Then what lab testing can I use to further investigate each system and each, physiological metabolic pathway system? And then what can we do with diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and therapeutic supplementation in order to improve the function of the system? So it is very much a underlying root cause, objective, science-based approach.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's the thing is at this point, I really just work with pretty complicated cases. So either people that are like chronically ill and
Mm-hmm.
they've been through tons of doctors and specialists and whatever. Nobody's had the answers. Nobody has, well, I don't know what's wrong with you. Here's a lot of drugs that you could take. And like, they're just not getting the answers or explanations, but also nobody's taken the time to look into very fundamental physiology, which how our system has gotten to that point, I have no idea. I think it has something to do with money. And we don't need to get into that. It is what it is. But I think what we now call functional medicine, I truly believe that's what medicine was always supposed to be. That's what it used to be, is understanding how the system works, what things will cause the system to not work, and then what can we do to make it work again. And I think we've gotten very far away from that with technology, just because, let's be real, our society is addicted to instant gratification and quick fixes. That's what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's one of those, I could either drastically overhaul my diet, my lifestyle, my environment, my attitude, take supplements every day, filter my water, change my like all these things that really do require a drastic lifestyle change. Or I could just make the symptoms go away by popping this pill that insurance pays for. So, let's be real. But the people that I work with, they're the ones that they get that. And they're the ones that they truly want vibrant, optimal health, not just brushing the dirt under the rug. And it's not for everybody. Some people, they're not there. Everybody's on their own journey in life.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of them come around to it and get amazing results. Some of them kind of poke their toes in the water and they're just, But hey, I haven't really been stumped yet, and obviously doing something well, because I have a lot of clients with complex health conditions like autoimmune conditions or polycystic ovarian syndrome or chronic inflammatory response syndrome. All these really complex physiological things that when you break it down, it's really not that complex. I mean, it is, but it's kind of not at the same time. And when you take that approach, amazing things happen. Now, that's what's cool is I'm not a licensed medical provider, but I can say that through my work with clients, I've had a lot of clients where their conditions went away, went into remission, whether it was type 2 diabetes or Hashimoto's or PCOS or whatever. And it's just like, oops, like, I guess our health coaching accidentally healed your disease that no doctor or specialist had answers for. So I'm cool with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you touched on it's much harder for people to go, this route sometimes with, having to yeah, usually just completely change their lifestyle. But the other thing is, it not only just helps their health, but helps their life because that builds a foundation that they're going to have forever.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's something that a lot of people miss is it's just like, oh, well, it's not, my my symptoms aren't that bad to like have to go to all that work or but because everything is connected to everything in this holistic realm of health and wellness, it completely changes their life and not just their health, which is so cool. But I love hearing stories of when people go that route and do the work because it's definitely the road less traveled, but it's fulfilling. And not only like are you helping these people get healthier and see results, but they're also helping themselves do that, which I think does a lot for people. When I put in the work to hit a goal or do whatever, I'm always, getting help from people or resources or whatever too. But I, have definitely a confidence boost for helping myself do that because I could have just sat around and not reached my goals or whatever. But so I think it's really cool when people take that route.
Yeah. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. I can't even imagine doing anything else. And again, like I wouldn't choose this path if it wasn't what works.
Right.
I mean, I'm not the type of guy I'm going to pick a side just to pick a side and be stubborn and closed-minded. Like, that's not me. I want to do what works. And until I find something that works better than the way I do things, I'm going to keep doing it this way because it seems to work the best.
Yeah.
Most sustainable, the best results, the healthiest, long-term, short-term. So it's like, if it works, it works. And now, to be fair, though, that's why I love basing everything that I do around lab testing is, hey, these are labs that I'm getting from a third-party lab that I have no affiliation with other than I'm a customer of theirs. I'm a provider of their testing. And, it's objective data that is 100% specific to that person's body and metabolism at that point in time. And it really does, assuming that you can speak the foreign language that is biochemistry, it does create a roadmap and it's very black and white. And so what I have to do is kind of two things. I have to interpret it and explain, well, here's the black and white, like what your body's doing and what you have to do to fix it. But then I also have to flip the script and then be the coach of, now let me help you figure out how to implement those daily behavior changes into your day-to-day lifestyle, which I actually did even hire a health coach to help me do that because it's hard to do both. It's hard to, like, for example, if I have a client that needs to go gluten-free because I see their gluten antibodies and all these lab test-based indicators that gluten is harming their body and physiology, it's very easy for me to say, you've got to stop eating gluten. But it's not really so easy for that person to completely eliminate it from their day-to-day life. So then where you have to figure out how to actually put that into practice where the rubber meets the road. So there's a lot to it, but it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So can you kind of take us through what like the client process is like, if a client comes to you and they're like, I don't feel good. I'm not sure what's up. I've been to everybody, to help me, basically. What's kind of the process that they go through with you when they hire you and kind of what to expect?
Yeah, exactly. So I essentially have it set up where I do offer a complimentary 20-minute virtual consult, which, by the way, I do 70 to 80% of all of my work remotely. So just like, screen sharing and video conferencing, stuff like that. So I work with people all over, but I offer complimentary 20-minute phone consults to basically like, hey, what's up? What are you looking for? And basically to determine, is this even the right fit for you? Is this what you're looking for?
Sure.
If somebody's coming to me like, oh, I have this this rash on my wrist and my only goal is to get rid of this rash. And it's like, well, that's not really what I do. I don't, that's more of like a dermatologist thing.
Sure.
But if you're trying to get to the root of, well, what's causing your skin conditions and we want to look into your gut function, whatever, that's different. So 20-minute preliminary consult, complimentary, just see if it's the right fit. But then if they know that this is probably what they're looking for, if they're getting referred to me, I offer $50 intensive hour consults where I actually send a questionnaire that dives deep into their diet, their lifestyle, medication use, but then gets into a lot of different symptoms. And so that helps me understand what symptoms, what systems within the body might that be related to, the supposed degree of what I call metabolic dysfunction, aka just how haywire does it seem like things are.
Yeah.
And then I'll go through in depth and I'll explain, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm seeing, here's what it probably means. And then essentially, here's what I would recommend as far as what testing we need to do to further investigate and get to the heart of what is going on. So then we can draw that roadmap. Now, certainly while we're waiting on test results, we have to work on the foundation. If you don't have a good, solid foundation of a healthy lifestyle, basic diet habits that we all know that we should be doing but probably aren't, or exercise or rest or stress management, like you have to have the base, you have to have the foundation. The test results will help us get more specific with what systems need specific therapeutic intervention. But, that's kind of building off the foundation. So if somebody just doesn't have a good lifestyle to begin with, sometimes it's not even always worth doing the testing right away because it's like we just need to do some basic cleanup.
Sure.
Yeah. But it depends on the severity because other times without the test results, you're not going to get anywhere because you're missing a major component that's blocking them from making progress. So, but that's kind of the general way. And then once I get going with the client, essentially we do their initial interpretation session where I'm breaking it all down on here's what's up, here's what's going on, here's your fancy program that I put together. But then the process is I prefer my clients to meet with either myself or my health coach basically every other week to check in, get that coaching, have that accountability, have that extra guidance on how to implement. So I'll be honest, I dump a ton of info on people. It's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
I have to provide them with a ton of info.
Yeah.
So it's like, boom, there you go. Here's what we have to work through. But now let's work through it together one week at a time. And then we do retesting when it's necessary, to check in on what's working, what's not working, what needs more attention, so on and so forth. So it's kind of an investigation detective type process. And you just keep going until we get them to where they want to be. Like, there are always the answers. You just have to keep looking for them. And that's what I love about what I do is it isn't like, oh, I just don't know. It's just not working for you. Yeah. It's like, no, there's going to be answers. We just have to keep going until we find them. But also you have to be compliant and do what you need to do to get the results. Yeah. So that's what is awesome about lab testing is it takes away all the excuses, really, because it's like, there's the roadmap. You're either going to use it and I will help you use it or hey, it's on you,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. Do you have a client success story that you want to share? You don't have to.
I have quite a few, but I've got to say, there's this one girl that I have. I'll give her first name. Her name's Blair. I brag about her a lot on my Facebook page just because, she's killing it. Yeah. I have some other pretty awesome stories, and, a lot of great things going on, but I just feel like hands down, she's the most impressive. And, the thing is, she gets the same service that all the other clients get, but her results are definitely outstanding. And that's a reflection of her. Yeah. That's a reflection of her commitment to her own health. Mm-hmm. And, she has had, some sad things in her life that I think have really fueled that fire of motivation.
Sure.
People close to her that were not well and, stuff happens. So I think it really fueled her motivation to take her health seriously. And so what's been so cool, that all started where she came to me and she's like, hey, I heard you do testing. I want to do food sensitivities. I'm like, hi, nice to meet you. Okay. So, I gave her a food sensitivity test. I'm like, so why did you want to do this test? Like, what's going on with your health? And, so then we did the intake and I found out she was diagnosed hypothyroid a decade ago. And, she took herself off medication because she didn't want to be on it, which not at all necessarily what I would recommend. But hey, that's her doing her thing. And anyway, so then, we did some further investigation, and I was the one to find. Now, again, since I'm not a licensed medical provider, it's not an official diagnosis, but she has Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not an official diagnosis, but hey, it is what it is. I'm the only one that ever took the time to run the testing.
Yeah.
That frankly is very obvious, and that's very disturbing that nobody had ever told her that before.
Yeah.
Because it changes the game. An
Definitely.
autoimmune thyroid condition is very different than just an underactive thyroid. And so, anyways, hers was very progressed.
Mm-hmm.
Her thyroid antibodies were through the roof, and the antibodies are the biochemical of autoimmunity against a tissue. I won't go into all the nerdy stuff, but essentially it's just this was very progressed. So the way to think about it is autoimmunity is almost like a forest fire, where the bigger the fire, the worse it is. And the more that the tissue is being destroyed, the more the trees are burning. So I think, the higher the antibodies, the bigger the forest fire. And so hers were sky high. And, so then we got her on a very specific protocol. And then we did a retest 8 weeks later to see how progress was coming along. And they went from over 1,000 down to 300 in 8 weeks.
Oh my God.
With basically, diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, but then just a few key supplements, no medication or anything. And it's just amazing to see what she's been accomplishing. She's lost a lot of weight, but, weight loss is that'll come with metabolic health. That'll come with doing the right things. And that's what's so cool is her lab test data really shows she's drastically improved her metabolic health. She's well on her way to putting what was a very progressed case of Hashimoto's into remission.
Yeah.
And what's even cooler is honestly, she's been very independent through this process. I don't meet with her regularly. I don't see her every 2 weeks. Basically, we chat a lot because, we run into each other a lot, but she's mostly just been taking the information I provide and running with it. So it's just so cool to see that. Other clients need a little bit more hand-holding. It's fine, but she's just kicking butt and deserves all the props in the world. So
that's awesome. That's so cool. I love hearing success stories like that, and just I know I see the success that you're giving your clients, and it's just incredible first to even be in the presence or have a friend like you who's doing all these amazing things. And so while Blair did a lot of that on herself, you're just providing an awesome avenue for people to obtain that information. And that's a difficult job, and so that's really awesome that you're doing it.
Well, that's very flattering, very kind words. It really does mean the world to me, because it's just, that's what's so cool about it. And at the same time, almost frustrating about sort of the state of the industry. It's why is this information and education not more readily available? I don't know too many, I train professionals on how to do what I do. And for me, that's a very fulfilling way to feel like I'm having a bigger impact, because instead of only helping the people that come into direct contact, well, hey, I'm training the next generation of practitioners, and we're growing our numbers, we're increasing how many professionals like me there are. And so I like doing that, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, it really just comes down to, I think there's a ton of value behind being a good health coach. But yeah, there's a huge gap with, understanding that deep sciencey stuff. And I think Blair's the perfect example of, that's why I named my business Metabolic Solutions, is, hey, I'm just the science nerd that took the time to learn this stuff. And I'm just giving you the information that you need to accomplish everything you could ever want. And what people do with that information really is up to them. I try to help them best my abilities, but it's just, here's the information, now use it. And the people that do get amazing results. And so it's such a weird feeling, because, I'll give myself some credit, but at the same time, I'm just giving the information. And if people use it, then they're incredibly successful. And that's what's just so cool, is I'm empowering people rather than, empowering and educating, not just do this because I said so.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So, can you tell us a little bit about your business? Just kind of, I know we touched on, your passion for health and wellness and finding that sweet spot in life with making your passion, your career. But kind of how did your business start? Like, how has it evolved since? And where do you see it going in the future?
Great question. I mean, considering, it all started in a health club as a trainer and nutrition coach, and then, what I do now with my private practice and then training professionals to do this kind of work, it's just been quite the ride. Yeah, the way it all started, I mean, I've got to give you some mad props because it was when I was still working in a health club and, I was working on my education and credentials and, hey, you got to start somewhere, and you helped me get my original website set up. And it was really kind of more just like a blog back then. And then, since then I've transformed it into the official, Metabolic Solutions private practice website and all of that. And so it's been really cool. It is mostly an online based business, which is cool. I'm not limited to who I can help. I can help anybody on the planet, and provide them with the same information. And so that's pretty freeing and empowering. Where I see it going, I mean, I'm just going to keep doing my thing, keep trying to educate professionals, keep trying to educate people, keep spreading the love and the science and the juju, and continuing that mission. I don't know. I have a lot of big, lofty goals and stuff, but it really just comes down to continuing to spread what really needs to be spread. I do very much feel like we're kind of in the middle of like a health revolution. Not to get too much into that, but you just look at the statistics of healthcare. Like our disease statistics have never been worse, especially with what is largely lifestyle-induced conditions. If you're looking at like the top mortality causes of our society, it's not like rare, malignant, out of nowhere diseases. It's lifestyle-induced conditions. And if the healthcare system was represented by like one person, which it's not, I can't even imagine showing my face in public. Because it's like, how can you stand there and say that our system is doing a good job when we have the best technology ever, and yet our society is the most unhealthy it's ever been, ever, and it's just like, obviously there's a problem. And so functional medicine, because, we've always had like alternative and naturopathic and integrative and, holistic medicine, but like functional medicine is more of a newer term that I look at as like kind of the best of all of it. And I really think we are in the midst of a functional medicine, functional health revolution, but it really is a holistic revolution when it comes down to it. More and more people are realizing their quality of life sucks, and they're tired of it, and they're tired of not getting the answers that they frankly deserve. And, it'll be interesting to see what the next decade brings, but, it's just a matter of time. So I feel like I'm kind of a younger professional that gets to kind of be a little bit of a pioneer in sort of being a part of that revolution. And it'll be exciting, someday when I'm like 50 and talking to my kids and be like, oh yeah, back when I was a kid, type 2 diabetes was this rampant with children your age, whereas my kids, they'll never know that, and so I think it's just really cool. It's a cool movement to be a part of. It feels like a very revolutionary in importance, process in our sort of evolution as a species. And so I'm just excited to see where it goes. And I'm just trying to do my part to help facilitate what needs to happen. So that's about it. And I'm just going to keep going because it's my passion, and people need it. The world needs it. And that's really what it comes down to. And it's pretty much that simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. So before we kind of wrap up and do like my end of interview questions that I ask, where can people find you online? And do you have, if people are interested in getting in contact with you to see if you guys are a good fit, how can they do that?
Yeah, so I have my website, which is metabolicsolutionsllc.com. And then, of course, my email, which is, very much connected throughout that website, but it's info@metabolicsolutionsllc.com. I do have a scheduling link that people can use where they don't even have to contact me. They can just get their appointment set up, whether that's the complimentary 20-minute virtual consult or the $50 intensive consult. I do have an online scheduler, and basically I just sit back and people, kind of fill up my schedule, which is nice. But yeah, complimentary versus the full hour kind of paid intensive consult. But, I would just encourage them to check out the website first, read around, dig around, watch this interview, because if this interview resonates with them, they're probably in the right place. If it doesn't, they probably tuned out like an hour ago. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's kind of the best way to get a hold of me. And then, of course, the Facebook page, which I try to stay pretty active on, posting a lot of success stories and education and funny memes and stuff. But just Metabolic Solutions LLC on Facebook. So, yeah.
Awesome. And I'll put the links to all of those things below this video, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on my website. I'll have all those links below as well. Okay, so first off, what is your definition of happiness? I know, it's loaded.
I think it comes down to like being at peace with yourself more than anything. I feel like if I've learned anything in life, it's like, which we all hear this stuff and sometimes almost sounds cheesy, but, happiness comes from within and happiness doesn't come from external stuff. But I think there's so much truth to that. I think you have to find the things in life that fulfill you and fulfill your soul and, make you want to get out of bed in the morning with excitement and enthusiasm. And, there's this kind of quote thing, but it's like, be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you find that thing that sets your soul on fire and you're pursuing it, to me, that's kind of happiness. But, it really also has to go hand in hand with that inner peace. And being a very goal-driven and relatively obsessive person myself, I have to balance that a little bit because I will pursue what sets my soul on fire all day. But I have to make sure I'm also doing that self-care and kind of at peace with myself. And also, like, why do I always feel the need to push so hard? Maybe I think it's balance. I think you have to find that balance of serving the world in whatever way that you're going to do that and being fulfilled by that because you are contributing to the greater good, but also making sure that you're taking care of yourself because, ultimately it is your life. And I think it's very noble and altruistic to just serve. I think I see a lot of moms that they're great at serving others, but they're not great at taking care of themselves.
Yep.
And it's like, well, but if you want to serve others to the best of your ability, you have to take care of yourself. If you're not putting yourself first once in a while, you're not going to be the best employee or mother or CEO or whatever it is. So it's that balance of self-care versus also serving the world. But yeah, if it doesn't set your soul on fire, you're doing the wrong thing. You need to keep exploring until you find it. Too many people kind of settle for the mundane, and it's like, why? You only get one life as far as I know, so live it up.
Yep. Awesome. I love it. Second question. So and this means something different to everybody, but what does being on a kind journey mean to you?
Ooh, I like that one. I feel like I am on a kind journey. I think kind of relating back to the first question, it's about really, leaving the world in a better place than how you came into it or how you found it. Same thing with every individual, it's kind of one of those like, leave that individual a better person than how you found them. And I think if you're constantly striving to benefit others, like you are living a kind journey. And, like we said earlier, some people are kind of confrontational and whatever. I don't get that, but I like to think that there's more like good and love in the world. Obviously the world is a messy place, but I certainly think if more of us were on a kind journey and trying to live a kind life, we might actually get somewhere. And that sounds like super hippie, but at the same time, it is what it is and it's true.
Yeah.
Yep. And I feel like the people that don't think it's true are kind of the problem.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Awesome. Last question. So maybe this is the hardest one of the entire interview, but if you only had one piece of advice to give someone to live their best life, what would it be?
know why you do what you do, period. Like,
Awesome.
you got to understand why you make the choices you do. And that could be something super simple, like why do you reach for a chocolate chip cookie every night at 8:30 p.m.?
Yeah.
Or why do you get out of bed in the morning? Why do you go to the job that you go to? Like, you got to get to that why, you know? And if you can make peace with your why, then you're probably in the right spot. But if you can't, you know, feel blissfully at peace with your why, you should reevaluate.
Yeah.
You know, you really should. So I think that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. I love that. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Brendan, for being with us today. And everyone who's listening or watching, you know, make sure that you tag some friends below, share this article, share the video with people. Anyone who is even remotely interested in health or wellness, or you feel like would get some value out of this video, please share it. Again, check out the links below. Brendan's got a lot of good stuff, and it's only getting better, as it should, you know. And same here. Keep checking out what's on akindjourney.com and with the brands, and we're just super excited to be here with the audience. And yeah, that's what we've got for you guys. Thanks again, Brendan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Taylor. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye.